So throughout the history of criminology, there is one game some serial killers just can't resist, and that's the classic cat and mouse game, sending letters to the police, leaving behind clues at the scene. True evil enjoys showing off its cleverness and ability to outwit authorities, and the following serial killers are no exception. So in this video, we're going to be talking about 10 twisted serial killers who have taunted the police. Hello guys, welcome to the World of Crime YouTube channel. If you guys end up enjoying this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up because it does help the video, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. In this video, we're going to be talking about 10 serial killers that loved to taunt the police and love the attention of really playing that cat and mouse game. Coming in at number 10, we have Dennis Rader, who was also known as the BTK Killer. So Dennis Rader murdered 10 people between the years of 1974 and 1991. He was called the BTK Killer, which stands for Bind, Torture, Kill, because that's how he would kill his victims. He terrified neighborhoods so much that there was a surge in home security systems in his area. However, there was a sinister twist. Rader was the one actually installing the alarms for security company in 1974 to 1988. Rader was able to avoid capture for roughly 3 decades while taunting the police with letters that read, "Good luck hunting." He also accurately described the positions in which he left the bodies at each crime. Although in 2005, Rader was arrested after a floppy disk he sent to a local television station was quickly traced to a computer he had used at his church. The BTK Killer was finally caught and is now serving life behind bars in a Kansas maximum security. Number 9, we have the Zodiac Killer. Now, the Zodiac Killer is still an unidentified serial killer who murdered 5 known victims in Northern California between December 1968 and October 1969. Now, I know recently or a few years ago they did say they found more evidence of who the Zodiac Killer can be, but I don't think they found anything concrete. They have some speculation of who it is, but no one has officially been charged as the Zodiac Killer. His crimes actually frustrated detectives, as the killer would send coded messages to the newspapers following each murder. So one of the coded messages that he sent was, "This is the Zodiac speaking. By the way, have you cracked the last cipher that I sent you? My name is..." And then it ended because it followed by a series of letters and symbols. Yet the code has never been cracked. Another letter read that he said he liked killing people because it was so much fun. The Zodiac also provided details of the murders that only the real killer would have known, and warned that the previous victims would not be his last. The Zodiac case is the #1 unsolved American criminal mystery. Coming in at number 8, we have David Berkowitz, who is also known as the Son of Sam. So serial killer David Berkowitz murdered 6 people in New York City from 1976 to 1977. Known as the Son of Sam, he claimed his neighborhood's dog had ordered him to do the murders. The random attacks across the city were all carried out with a .44 caliber revolver. NYPD officer Timothy was part of the homicide squad tasked with capturing the killer. Apparently, Berkowitz would send a chilling letter to the officer on the case, and would threaten his teenage daughter, Melissa, in a recent documentary. Berkowitz's reign of terror came to an end when his car was traced through a $35 parking ticket he received when parking near the crime scene of his final kill. Since 1977, he has been kept permanently behind bars. Coming in at number 7, we have Jack the Ripper. So more than 100 years ago, a mysterious and brutal serial killer who became known as Jack the Ripper terrorized the streets of London. The bodies of 5 women were discovered brutally butchered and lower abdomens ripped open. Shortly after the murders had begun, a letter was sent to the Central News Agency titled "Dear Boss." The letter warned that the killer would strike again and clip the lady's ears off, and just 3 days later, the next victim was found with 1 ear removed. Another letter titled "From Hell" was sent a month later to the leader of the Whitechapel, claiming that the killer fried and ate half the kidney of the previous victim. This was sent with a box containing the other half of the kidney preserved in alcohol. The case of Jack Ripper is still one of London's most notorious unsolved serial murderers. Coming in at number 6, we have William the Lipstick Killer Hearens. So in 1945 and 1946, 3 women were brutally murdered in the city of Chicago, and the killer used lipstick of one of the victims to scrawl on the walls of her home. He wrote, "For heaven's sake catch me, before I kill more, I cannot control myself." The press named him the Lipstick Killer, and police attempted to track him down before he struck again. His final victim was a 6-year-old named Susan, who was abducted from her home. The scattered remains of her body were discovered around the Edgewater neighborhood, neighborhood, a ransom note left behind demanded $20,000 and issued a warning not to contact the FBI. 6 months after the murder, 17-year-old William was finally arrested when somebody noticed him breaking into an apartment. Prosecutors said they had fingerprints and handwriting analysis to prove that he was the lipstick killer. Coming in at number 5, we have the happy face killer. So Keith Hunter murdered 8 women over the span of 5 years in the early 1990s. The twisted serial killer worked as an interstate truck driver, which allowed him to roam the country as a cold-blooded killer. However, he became unsatisfied with the lack of attention for the murders and began to taunt the police and local news stations. Keith started writing letters to the news stations detailing his murders and signing them with a smiley face. There were always smiley faces left behind at the scene of the murders or as graffiti on the walls of truck stops. And they named him the Happy Face Killer. He managed to escape arrest and remain anonymous until 1995. His reign of terror finally came to an end when a longtime girlfriend ran to the police with evidence. Coming in at number 4, we have the Axemen of New Orleans. So from 1918 to 1919, the Axemen of New Orleans killed 6 people and left 6 more severely injured. An Italian grocery store owner and his wife were the first victims. They were found in bed at home with their throats cut and skulls bashed in with an axe. The victims who followed were also found in bed and no valuable belongings were taken. He sent a letter to the Times newspaper for demands for the following Tuesday night. He said, "I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, then so much the better for you people. One thing is certain, for the people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night will get the axe." On that Tuesday night, the streets of New Orleans filled with jazz and nobody was harmed. Then in October 1919, the murders ended just as quickly as they had begun. The killer was never found. Number 3, we have Ted Bundy. Definitely one of the most well-known serial killers that a lot of you guys have already heard about. Ted Bundy was active between 1974 and 1978. He murdered at least 30 female victims in 7 states. One of the most haunting aspects of the case is how long Bundy managed to evade police officers and continue his brutal killing spree. Bundy's longtime girlfriend Elizabeth informed the police of her suspicions after she found a hatchet under the front seat of his Volkswagen Beetle. The cold killer's game playing continued through his trials. Acting as his own attorney, Bundy was allowed to cross-examine the arresting officers and poke holes in their investigation. Eventually, his wicked ways caught up with him and he was executed in Florida State Prison in 1989. Number 2, we have Todd Colehep. So Todd murdered 7 victims in South Carolina between 2003 and 2016. He was finally arrested when a missing woman named Kayla Brown was rescued from a storage container where she had been kept in chains and witnessed the murder of her own boyfriend. Todd claimed that there were more victims in an 8-page letter he sent to the Journal, and he said, "Yes, there is more than 7. I tried to tell investigators and I did tell FBI, but it was blown off." He also added at some point he doesn't really see any reason to give numbers or locations. Coming in at number 1, we have the Golden State Killer. So Joseph DeAngelo, who was known by many names, mostly the Golden State Killer or the East Area Rapist, Original Night Stalker, or the Diamond Knot Killer. From 1974 to 1986, he committed at least 13 murders and 50 rapes and ransacked more than 120 homes. It wasn't until decades later that the FBI were able to arrest DeAngelo, a former police officer, based on DNA evidence, but when he got caught, he was already aged 72 years old. DeAngelo had enjoyed flaunting his power while evading capture. After an attack, victims often received chilling phone calls and would hear heavy breathing following by a series of threats. And in one phone call released by the FBI, DeAngelo can be heard telling a victim who survived a sexual assault, saying, "I'm going to kill you, going to kill you, going to kill you." And in 1977, the killer also called the sheriff's office and told them, "I'm the East Side Rapist, and I have my next victim already stalked, and you guys can't catch me." The news of his arrest in 2018 brought a wave of relief to the survivors, victims, and authorities. As we already know, the world is a crazy place. You can't really trust anyone because most of these serial killers on this list have been somewhere in law enforcement or somewhere close to you that just do a regular job and you would never know that it's them. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and let me know in the comments which serial killer do you think was the most disturbing and why.